book that I'm writing, the artwork for a children's book that I'm writing. And trying to get it put together. And so this kind of body doubles for me when I do this. And I thought that would be a good way to do it. And so we're going to do a little bit of it today. I am over on YouTube and I can see what's going on YouTube a little bit better than I can see what's going on here. So if you are looking to talk, or if you have things that you want to say, it's a little bit easier if you go over onto YouTube and find it, or talk to me over there, because I can see what you're saying over there a little bit easier than I can see what you're saying over here. I finally got the scanner thing to work out right. It took me quite a bit of fucking around with it, but I did get it to go. So we're going to step on in and work on this. This is where we're at. I have like this little storyboard thing set up that I've been working on. I know that the camera is upside down for this, so you're probably not able to see what it is, and probably a little bit backwards, but like I have my own little storyboard of how the pages are going to work. And then I have the one that I had worked on before and had almost finished. And it's not going to look like this, but I am redoing things, and this just kind of became a drawing board, kind of, you know, to look at what I wanted it to look like in the end. Trying to make sure that you guys are set up in a way that you guys can see and I can work. There we go. Hopefully. I hope you all are doing wonderful. Thank you all for coming in and joining me. Thank you so much for that pretty heart. Again, I can't really see TikTok much. I think I can do this. Maybe not like that. Maybe like this. Is here. Hi, everybody. Hi, Sleepy. So I am just going to be arting. It is just kind of a body double situation. And I figured I'd do it with you guys here. Plus, I'm trying to record it as I art so that I can have it later on for part of the sale of the book. But I wanted to just come in. So if you want to talk, if you have things to say and I can't see them in here because I'm not paying attention, I am over on YouTube, and YouTube is up so I can actually see that because I'm using my computer to scan everything in. So that's easier to see if you're actually wanting to speak, if you actually want to comment. Otherwise, I'll check in as I put it in the scanner and I'll go back through comments and stuff like that. Thank you so much, beautiful. So let's go ahead and get started. So the premise of this is teaching children how to connect, teaching children how to kind of ground and center to the world around them. So first, what we've gotten here is we started out with just kind of this. So I did not get a picture of that, so I'm going to have to kind of fuck with it afterwards. And after we started out with just kind of this, we've brought in the roots in for the human being, because as their roots are sinking into the ground, they're sinking into the ground. I think I just did something there. I know that this camera shakes a little bit, and I apologize for that. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of the environment around. So first thing we're going to bring in is some trees. This is about finding that connection with the world around you, and how that connection with the world around you really is about the way that we interact and so it's going to have a little bit of the, you know, really what I want it to do is kind of show how we can really become a part of the world around us if we just connect to the world around us. Grounding and centering is something that not a lot of people are taught. And it can have a lot of uses, not only in a metaphysical sense, but in a mental health sense. Grounding and centering can really kind of bring people out of a mental health crisis. It can bring you out of a panic attack. It can bring you out of depression a lot of the times. And so we're really just kind of going to give that thought process here and give the ability to really find a way to sink into it, um, and really um, almost natural sense of how to sink into it is really what I'm kind of going for here. Is this kind of almost natural ability to so children have this very natural ability to connect to the other side that we kind of get talked out of by the time we get to adulthood. By the time we get to adulthood, most of us have kind of been talked out of having this natural ability to see the other side, to connect to the other side, to see spirits on the other side, to interact with the other side. We're told that it's fantasy, and so we tend to believe that it must be fantasy. And in that tending to believe that it must be fantasy, we have a tendency to lose that connection that is actually pretty natural to us because like we talk about in here often, we are very much a part of the biome if we allow ourselves to be. We kind of reach a space as humans that we don't really allow ourselves to be a part of the biome so much. But we really are a part of this very generous biome that is very much a not only a part of us, but really helps us, like really gives us the different things that we need. And so, really, what I want to do is give parents a way to show their kids at a young age in a pretty and kind of understandable sense and simple sense. So all the words are pretty simple, and all the thought processes are pretty simple, um, and all of the ways are various simple ways of actually creating this connection with the world that we have the ability to create when we allow ourselves to. And so that's what we're working on with this book is the ability to create that connection and the ability to show that connection and to kind of feel that connection. Um, so I'm bringing in trees at this point to give the biome around, and we're going to bring in other things probably a little bit later, though we're going to start a little bit of them here. I think that I want that a little bit differently. Part of the reason that I'm recording this is so that when children are looking, they can see that art is mistakes. Art is like life, constantly making mistakes, constantly messing up, constantly taking those mistakes that we make and adapting them so that we can function better in the world around us or create a better space in the world around us. And that constant adaptation of our mistakes is really an important aspect of who we are. We've talked before about the fact that it is constantly adapting. That's really one of those uniquely human traits that we have, right? And so if we have this constant adaptation, then really making mistakes is part of that constant adaptation. We've talked before about what science is and how science is really this ability to see and think of what it might mean and predict what it might mean and then experiment with it, play with it, test it. And often in those testings, it's the testings and the mistakes in the testings that teach us as much as positive tests do. So if you're testing and the testing doesn't pan out in the way that you're thinking it's supposed to pan out, it really teaches you something about it. It really gives you this greater understanding of whatever it is that you're working with. So if you are able to understand that the mistakes actually grant knowledge that you're not going to get otherwise, then you can see that it's really part of making those mistakes that makes us very human and makes us very capable of moving forward, right? It's really that movement forward that comes from, making mistakes, comes from understanding that it's okay to make mistakes, that mistakes are really just a part of that process. And so, part of this, and the reason that I'm recording it is because I want to include a voiceless recording of this in the sale of the book, so that it can be seen where mistakes were made, and we're able to be rectified, or we're able to be incorporated, or able to teach something new, or give something new. And so I'm hoping that that will help for others, and that's really part of the reason I'm recording. um, the body double thing is really healthy for me and really helpful for me. And so that's another part of the reason that I'm recording, is because body doubling seems to actually work really well for me when I'm doing things like this. If you don't know, body doubling is where you have somebody who maybe sits on the phone with you or sits in a room with you, and kind of gives you that ability to function and incorporate without taking your energy or your thought process. So, somebody who's body doubling might actually, not speak at all, or they um, might be working on their own thing. And it is in that work side by side that gives you the ability to kind of just function better when you have a hard time focusing. Hi. Yes, absolutely. I'm totally, you're one of the first people, because Bear is absolutely one of the people that I'm thinking about when I'm doing this book. Bear, my grandkids, of course, and future grandkids, but I have Bear is on my list. Trust me, Bear is on my list for cool things. Um, but well, and I'm hoping that it will, I want it to be able to give, some of the children that I really love, like Bear, like that um, work with it, like that new that ability that a lot of us don't have, right? And so I'm sure, because I mean, I know you enough to know that you're absolutely teaching Bear a lot of these things. Uh, Unfortunately, I think that a lot of us don't come into parenting knowing how to do some of these things, right? And because we don't come into parenting knowing how to do some of these things, it's hard for us to teach our children. This is one of those things that I was really lucky. My mother was really big on teaching us meditative practices when I was little. And so I got a lot of meditation when I was little. And that really gave me the ability to know some of these things. And I definitely was able to incorporate some of these things with my children. Some of these things, though, I didn't learn until I was older, even though I had that ability when I was young. And some of them are really things that are used today in mental health work. Like, some of them I learned because counselors were teaching me, or counselors were teaching my children these things, and I learned it from that. Um, when I was little, when I grounded and centered, what I did was I would sit in the middle of somewhere, or sit somewhere, and imagine the roots coming from my tailbone into the world around me. And I would picture myself in the center of a circle of stones. And that's how I was taught to ground and center. So when I saw or learned grounding and centering from a mental health perspective, grounding and centering in a mental health perspective is a little bit different. Grounding and centering in a mental health perspective, actually, you center and ground by checking in, basically, in the world around you. What sights do you see? What smells? What feelings? What sounds? things like that. And that's how you ground and center in a mental health capacity. And so I've learned kind of to ground and center in both that metaphysical capacity that I was taught as a child and to ground and center in a mental health capacity as well. And so I want to incorporate kind of both of those things in this as to, that mental health ability to kind of give you the stability sometimes that we need. Sometimes it's really hard to grasp that stability, especially when we're young children. It's really hard sometimes to grasp, uh, you know, actually doing things. And I witnessed a 4-year-old throwing a temper tantrum the other day because they couldn't have what they want, right? And their mother was very epic about trying to ensure that they understood and, things like that. But it's so hard when you're 4 to grasp the concept, in this case, it was over a toy that they wanted that they couldn't have, right? And so it's so hard to grasp that concept at 4 that, patience will get you somewhere later, like I can't get it to you now, but if you wait for me, then we'll get you something later. Or, well, the one that stuck out with me on this one was it was 2 children, and one child didn't want the other to play with their thing. And the one that wanted to play was the younger of the 2 children, and they were having a hard time dealing with that. And, what struck me was that understanding at 4 that it's all, there's no object permanence at 4, right? Instead of seeing that it's going to be there in 5 minutes, instead of seeing if I do something else for 5 minutes, right, then I can come back and I can have this ball, right? Because that was, if he'll come play with me for 5 minutes, then he can play with the ball afterwards, was one thing that was stated. And there was no concept for that child of, oh, well, if I go and do this for 5 minutes, and it's not that they weren't trying. I mean, their mother was absolutely, trying to explain this stuff to them and trying to get them to see this. And as a 4-year-old, they were absolutely doing their best with the huge emotions that they had, and they just really wanted to, play with the toy. And it's really difficult to be in that space, right? So if we can give tools to kind of, to figure it out before we get to that space, then, maybe in that space it becomes a little bit easier. And certainly it's not a case that this child didn't have, a parent who was trying to give them the tools and things like that. Just the idea that the more we do it, the more we have it interactive, the easier it becomes. It becomes a kind of memory, right? That's how we learn patience by the time we get to our adulthood, is because we have so many instances where we have to be patient, right? So if we can get that thought across more well. And you were doing quite well with that consistency, right? Like the person involved is absolutely, like, I was very proud of the way they parented their child. But not but and I felt so bad because, I mean, I was so proud of the way they parented their child and their patience with their child and everything else. And it's still just so hard for that child to, comprehend and to go, oh, okay, well, if 5 minutes isn't as long as I think 5 minutes is, or, things like that. And so I this was started way before that, but um, I'm hoping that things like this will help the, kids that I know or kids around me to kind of have that and not have that space because mom taught them that space, right? Because sometimes we don't like to listen to the things that mom taught us. Sometimes mom's teachings don't seem like they matter, right? Sometimes as children, as young adults or teenagers or whatever we are, we have a tendency to think that, you know, mom says I'm beautiful because she has to. Mom says she loves me because she has to. Mom is saying these things because they have to, or mom doesn't really understand how it feels, or, mom doesn't really understand how to do this. And so if we see it from an outside perspective, we'll see. I mean, I know, like, if I see a child throwing a fit in a grocery store and I walk up and I start talking to the child, a lot of times I can pull that child out of that fit because it's somebody else talking, right? It's not the mom talking. I know with my children when they were young, if somebody else came along and, was like, let me help and things like that, or not let me help, but like, distracted or did something that made the child see it in a different way, right? That in and of itself had a tendency to give them my children more of an ability to function, right? And so I'm kind of hoping that things like this will give more of an ability to function in a way that isn't necessarily there otherwise, because again, we're in a learning stage, right? And in that learning stage, making mistakes, trying to figure it out, it becomes really hard um, to figure it out. Okay, so I am trying to do scent, and there's a couple of symbols for scent that I've seen. One of them goes like this. And one of them goes like this. Of these two symbols for scent, which one makes you think smell more? A or B? If you could pop it up in chat. Hello, hello, hello. If you could pop it up in chat and tell me if you like A or B, that would be epic. This one is B. It's got like a bunch of little kind of almost fronds curling up here. And then this one is A, and it has just kind of two little waves coming up. Does anybody have a preference? That makes sense, Mia. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to go with B. I appreciate. I has been trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it. Trying to give off the idea and the understanding of smelling different things around you and how those different things might really kind of work. It's going to be too big, I think, and I don't want it that big. Centipedes aren't the easiest thing. Mixing might work too. Oh, I guess if I were to do like that with like a little bit of this off of it, it might actually like, oh yeah, there we go. I like the mixing idea. That works really well because that totally makes it to where it seems like it's not just, like it seems more like it's rising up, I think. I agree that it kind of looks like smoke. I also like this rising up aspect of it that really kind of gets me with scent, because I feel like scent kind of speaks to you and rises up sometimes, right? Like it just kind of here's my little curled centipede. Give him a little bit of a I'm taking off kind of vibe. I remember when I was little living in the teepee, the scent of centipede, and it's actually like one of those endemic memories, like just in my bones, that like I often like if I smell it. Actually, my partner brewed some mead last year, and I was like, this tastes like centipede. Well, this tastes like centipede smells. I'm not sure I like this. It tastes like centipede smells. And centipede is like one of those things that I can totally, like, to this day, like, smell a lot of the time. Or like when I smell it, I'm like, oh, that's definitely centipede. Okay, so we're going to pop this in and I'll go ahead and let me make sure that these are distinct enough because my computer doesn't want to always pick it up if it's not a distinction. Clean it up a little bit before we pop it in. It's hard to do 100 legs on something, right? This is all in pencil now, but starting on the next panel, we're actually going to start incorporating. I do want to incorporate some tufts of grass in here, I think. We're going to start incorporating color. And get rid of the pencil in this next picture. Okay. So let me go ahead and pop this in really quick. I want to make sure that it is cleaned up and I'm not picking up weird shit. It does take a couple minutes for it to scan because I'm high quality scanning it. Okay. So I'll watch you shake a little bit there. Wanting to incorporate a few different things as we mix the color in. Why is my scanner not scanning for me? Hello. There we go. It's been a pain in my ass, the scanner has been. Awesome. Had a video taken down today and put back up. The one on the chin line and the girl who was singing. So I did post a video today about, you know, if you're following me, then you should know that this conversation is going to be about appropriation versus appreciation and different ways that we can be better to not take from people, right? And so it's definitely something that if those kind of things are not what you're looking for, you're definitely not on the right space. Of course, it's not to try and get people who are here for that to leave, but like, and I know it was a follower because they commented and then reported the video. So of course I couldn't even see the comment, except for the fact that it came up in my feed. And I'm like, listen, I don't, whatever. Like, you should totally understand that, you know, it's never going to, it's not here to be comfortable. You know, the goal in life is comfort, right? The goal in life for all of us is comfort. But some people, you know, to get there, some people are not there and not allowed to be there because other people are kind of taking it. So to get it to a space where everybody is able to be comfortable, some things might be uncomfortable for some people, right? It might not feel like you you might feel upset or hurt that, like, well, we're at a point where, people are calling out white people on a regular basis, right? Um, which I've never considered myself white. I still feel it. Like, I mean, if I'm in a group of people and I got some person staring at me going, fucking white women, I'm sitting here going, well, I mean, I'm not. So I know you're not really talking to me, but it looks like you're talking to me, right? So understand the discomfort. I also understand that it's important that I not put my discomfort over other people's life, right? Like, we have this idea that, and this is something I was talking with somebody the other day, and it's something that I really come up with late, or not come up with lately, but one thing that I really had to remind myself a lot over the last couple of years is that um, my needs supersede your desires, and your desires should never supersede my needs, right? Somebody's need for life should not supersede somebody else's desire, or should not be superseded by somebody else's desire to cosplay, right? Somebody's need for respect and to be seen should not be superseded by somebody's desire to be, uh, you know, something that they're not, or maybe something that they are, but they don't understand, right? So we have to make sure that we don't put our comfort above other people's lives, right? That we understand that just because I'm uncomfortable, it doesn't mean jack shit, right? Like, there are so many people that are beyond discomfort right now. And we like to play like our comfort is, and our comfort is the goal, but we like to play like our comfort goal can supersede other people's safety goals, and that's not acceptable. And it's one of the things that's actually pretty problematic in our world right now, especially when we look at, like, people on the top 1% or people in the ruling class, right? When we're looking at that, we have to understand that my comfort and my desires for things should never be something that is put above somebody else's needs, right? Um, if I have eaten already and I really want a piece of bread, but there's somebody else who hasn't eaten at all and they're not going to eat today and they need that piece of bread, I should not be eating that piece of bread for my comfort when somebody else is not having the ability to actually eat that day, right? We should not be putting our desires for comfort over the needs of other people's self. And we tend to do that a lot in our world. And it's really not acceptable, right? It's really not acceptable to be putting your desire for anything other than basic needs, or just needs, over somebody else's need to live, right? And so I totally get that a lot of the things that we're talking about in here, and a lot of the things that we discuss, these things are not comfortable for people. It is understandable that these things are not comfortable for people. What is not understandable is putting your discomfort ahead of other people's lives, right? Putting your need to be in a comfortable space over other people's need for safety or need for health, right? I'm going to pull that out and drop us back down. Again, if you want to, I'm going to switch this so you can see what I'm drawing. If you would like to comment, and I can't see you because this is switched down, you can go over to the YouTube channel, the Widda Ord ... It's spelled exactly like my name is, n.widda.ord ... on YouTube. It's not on my background right now like it usually is. And comment over there so that you can be seen until I pop this back up. When I pop it back up, I will go through and look and make sure that any comments that that were here are seen. But just so you know. So I'm going to pop you back down. I think we're going to go like this. Make sure that you guys can see okay. trying to maneuver my phone holder thing in a way that it is visible. Let me see if that will see it. Ah, there we go. It has. Hi. I'm just doing some drawing and some artwork today. I'm going to meditate after I put you guys back down like that. I'm doing some drawing today because this is a book that I've written. It's a children's book. It'll be roughly 21 pages, and it is about grounding and centering. This is the artwork that I'm doing for it. So in this next step, I have these colored pencils that are watercolor color pencils. So I'm going to use the watercolor color pencils to replace what I've done with pencil for the most part. I'm going to kind of erase the most part of it and keep a little bit of the outline so I can see what I'm doing, and kind of get it back and transfer this over to color. If you haven't used watercolor pencils before, they're pretty cool. Watercolor pencils will, you can draw them like you would draw a colored pencil, and then you can take them and use a paintbrush and turn them into watercolor. And so the goal with this is that I'm going to draw it all out like this, and then we're going to turn it over into watercolor at the very end, last couple pages of it, so that it will turn into kind of like a put together artwork piece in the end. Again, this is, I'm recording this because by recording it, I can make sure that I'm showing the mistakes that I'm making. And as I do this and as I publish it, I want to make sure that I'm publishing the mistakes as well, because part of it is teaching children how it is the mistakes that we make that actually are moving us forward as humanity. It is the mistakes that we make that are actually like how we got to the point where we have the points that we did, and how we got to the point where we have all the things that we do. It is by making mistakes that we get there. And I kind of want to show that it is in that understanding and learning and growing that we learn and grow. So the book is meant to be a multifaceted understanding for children, and it's meant to be on an age that's pretty young so that it can put that understanding in pretty young of these are mental health techniques, and also metaphysical techniques for those who practice metaphysical patterns. Grounding and centering is really good in any energy work that you do. It's definitely a first in pretty much any energy work that you do. You want to ground and center first, and get to a point where you're capable of feeling the world around you before you're working into that energy point. That ability to feel the world around you before you move into that energy point really gives this ability to feel the energy in a better way. And if you can feel the energy in a better way, you can work with it in a better way. So if you're working on a magical sense or metaphysical sense, this is really, really helpful. Now, the technique that I'm showing is a combination of using the metaphysical and the mental health. And the reason being is because I think that it's something that from a young age, if we can incorporate it into our world around us, certain things that will stop panic attacks and stuff like that, then we can walk into the world with a little bit better tools as we're walking out into the world. And I also feel that as we are working with interaction with the world around us, like as we're moving out into the world around us, understanding the interaction of the world itself and our space within it, I think has a tendency to give us a much easier way to hold on a second. I've got to figure out how I want to do this tree here. Gives us a much easier understanding of humanity and easier way of dealing with humanity. Many of us have a hard time dealing with the world as it is now because the world as it is now is pretty uncomfortable and problematic, right? Um, so much is going on in the world as it is now that is pretty harmful to us. With these colored pencils, if I draw really light, I can erase a little bit. But for the most part, I'm only going to erase some of it so I can put the pencil underneath it and erase the pencil afterwards, especially with this eraser. This eraser, my father was an artist, my dad who raised me, and he used these all the time. He was very Picasso-esque in his artwork, and I love his artwork. I am very like I'm uncomfortable with being more Picasso-esque or more fantastical in my artwork, more surreal in my artwork. So I'm always more of a realist in my artwork. I don't know why I'm uncomfortable. It doesn't work for me. Like when I'm drawing, it has to look as right as it can. Yeah, clarity of emotions is really big. And that's I think really important as we're moving out in the world. Um, because when we're working with other people, being able to a kind of take a step back and see why they're acting the way that they're doing or the way that they are, or maybe see the see where our own actions might be causing problem, or just so many myriad of things come when we can have a moment to ground and center ourselves, or are working from a space that's grounded and centering, so we're seeing the world around us on a broader scale, as well as the calmness of it. I've never been a calm person. I am not by any means a calm person. I have always been a very I'm a very erratic person, probably, I guess. Uh, I am also very quick to emotion. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I am also very, I don't think I feel overly much. I do feel that I don't hide my emotions. I don't hide anything. I've never been good at hiding anything. Like I not only wear my heart on my sleeve, but I don't, you can usually tell when I'm being dishonest. The times in my life where I have felt the need to be dishonest, and almost all those times have been because I felt threatened by being anything else. Uh, because I just am very uncomfortable being false, just because then I'm like, it's a lot of weight to being false in something. There's a lot of weight to lying about something. You got to keep that shit up, and you know, make sure that you're not losing your train and things like that. Uh, and so I don't do very well with not just being very I don't know how to hide it, I think is what it is. It's not that I can't control it because I'm absolutely in control. It's not that my emotions are too big or too much or that my way of dealing is too big or too much. It's just that I have a very hard time hiding anything from people. Uh, so when I'm moving with that, it makes it very hard for me to uh, be dishonest. In fact, I'm not saying that I'm honest always person. I think that we're all have a tendency to not be completely truthful all the time. And I would never I, I have a person in my life who I was raised by who you had to be honest with them all the time, and they are the most honest person you've ever met. And I don't believe that anybody is able to be completely honest. I think that everybody has points in their life where they're dishonest. I think that everybody has different things that they do that aren't exactly honest. Um, like I joke around that well, it's not really a joke. I'll state like I'm gonna be as honest with you about most everything, but I always cheat at dice. Like there are things that I'm not as honest in, whereas there are other things that I'm like completely honest in. I know people who are very, very honest, but they might be dishonest when it comes to paying the bills or something like that, or like with the checks in the mail kind of dishonesty, right? So I think that there is this. I don't want to sit here and go like I'm the most honest person. I just am very discomfortable when I'm dishonest, and you'll see it's very noticeable. I'm not a good liar, and so with that, uh, I think that it's really important to learn how to remain in control of your emotions enough that you're not um, losing control of your emotions when you're feeling them. And I think that that's something that we can absolutely learn from things like grounding and centering, different meditative techniques, um, different abilities to calm our emotions, or not calm our emotions, but calm our mind to the point that we can understand what is going on around us. I, I felt like I was coming across like I was trying to say I was always honest, and I don't want to say that because I don't really. I find that anybody that you meet that talks about how they're always something or they're the most of something you've ever met is probably not. And they're trying to convince themselves as much as they are trying to convince you. And I'm not really into lying to myself either. I know I do. Like, I know that there are things that I definitely lie to myself about, but I'm not really happy with that. Like, I would like to not. So, the wonderful thing is that once I get this, my hands seem wet today. Once I get this done in color, I can take this behind and clean up all the smudge marks that are getting on it right now. I'm totally smudging it. I'm gonna have to like wash my hand off or something after I'm done uh, cleaning it up so that I can do it without the smudge. I am losing my sight too. Bright and quick, I guess. Yeah, I do have. I do have very deep emotions, and I do know that like I have long emotions. Like I don't hold grudges. I do rethink and rehash things over and over and over again. And I do have emotions over that. Um I do uh I do get angry really easily, and it burns out really easily. Uh I do, and I haven't always, but I do really work on controlling the things that I say when I get angry. I don't think I've ever been really cruel when I'm angry. If I have, it's definitely been intentional, but I know that I can be unintentionally it's unintentional. I know I can be unintentionally cruel sometimes anyways. Like, I had to learn not to, be as, open and honest about what I thought about things sometimes, right? So, sometimes people say things that my brain goes, "What a fucking idiot." Or, sometimes people say things that my brain goes, "Well, aren't you a piece of shit for thinking that?" And I've had to learn how to not. I've had to learn how to, and not just out loud, but like in my brain. Um, because I can't, I don't have a whole lot of a filter. I can't out loud it, or I can't think it without out louding it sometimes, right? Like, there's a lot of things that I just definitely out loud. This one doesn't want to come up with a pencil underneath. So this is a lesson. I haven't used these elements for quite some time, actually. I'm trying to double check with talks from time to time to make sure that I am getting some, um, getting it's kind of like an olive green, right? That I'm getting all the messages coming across there. Again, today I'm really doing some artwork for a book that I'm writing, and does this have a color on it? Uh, it's a children's book, and it's a progressive art piece to kind of illustrate uh, grounding and centering and how one might do so. Let me. So when I ground and center, as a teenager, when I grounded and centered, and as a young child, when I grounded and centered in a way in which I would picture myself in the middle of a circle of stones to center myself. For a long time, I pictured a tail of a lion going down from the base of my spine. Um, I have gone on journeys and different sacred experiences since I was young. That's the benefit of having a mother who is reconnecting. And I had guides really young. And one of the guides that I had was a giant cat. Um, so I would picture a giant cat's tail, basically, extending from the base of my spine when I was younger, as a very early way to do this. I, though, have been working with energy very literally as far back as I can remember. I can remember my mom having a tape recorder, those old fashioned little ones that were like long and square like this, that you would see in, the schools in the 80s. And I remember she had like a bunch of meditative tapes that she would play us to sleep with at night when we were in the bus and in the teepee. And it would, like, dad would play guitar for us some nights, and some nights mom would play tapes. And so I had a lot of really early connection to meditation. I that really early connection to meditation, I really had, see how I want to do that. I have to talk and process things a lot of the time because if I can talk and process things, then my brain shuts up. So if I was to draw or something without talking and processing through it, my brain would be somewhere else. I have to do that or play music or playing music doesn't work as much anymore. It used to. Or have a video going on in the background. I usually do stupid videos in the background, like watch reality TV, which I couldn't tell you what's going on in reality TV, but I can absolutely. I want to make sure this braid looks right. I can absolutely hear the background noise of it without feeling like I have to connect to it and I understand it. Which for me, I don't like to have to do connection and understanding for a lot of things when I'm trying to connect to something else because it makes it hard. And I also need something in which my brain will not. That's processing is more blue than green to me. I'm going blind. And in my going blind, it's very hard for me to see certain things. Okay, that's working. I'm already half blind, right? But I'll watch reality TV and stuff like that in the background if I'm not talking, processing through. So I'm definitely trying to talk and process through as we do this. So my thoughts are kind of random. And they will break off and disappear. I want to do depth of color with it, so I'm going to use several different colors with like the grass and stuff and the trees. I think I do have to erase it a little bit more before I start. And like I said, most of this is really a learning experience with these colors are not colors. With these mediums. I have used these all before, but it's been a long time since I've used them. I think that tends to, maybe if we do it like that. Ha, let's do it like that instead. I wonder if I can take this down. No, let's do. I'm gonna use this eraser for this stuff because it doesn't erase as well as the other eraser does. And I want to make sure I have some of the lines still here so that I can follow them as much as I possibly can. Some of this is a little bit dark because of the need to put it in a darker manner for the printer so that it has, or the scanner, so that it has the ability to pick it up. So normally I wouldn't make these pencil lines as dark as I did. But with the want of the printer to pick it up, I did. This is the pain of having to change everything from pencil to color, but I absolutely wanted to show that kind of ability and like that, well, not the ability of changing it from pencil to color, but the using of the pencil and the sketch and the change of the color, I think to me from black and white, kind of a little bit more of a flat environment to that level of interaction with humanity, that level, or not humanity, but the world around you that you get when you get to that point. That's awesome. Um, One, I realized that a lot of people that do art probably aren't doing a whole lot of talking, and I didn't think of that too, which I'm totally comfortable with. I was thinking I needed to keep up my conversation, but I probably don't really need to keep up the conversation as much as my brain tells me I should. I think it's important that when you're doing things like this, that you allow your own body's intuition to get involved in it. So when you're meditating or grounding and centering or any form of metaphysical activity, I think it's very important to follow your own instincts. I think that just like epigenetics is, in our bones, that how we interact with the world around us on a healthy level is also in our bones. I think Clan of the Cave Bear probably shaped my understanding of humanity and reality a little bit too much, to really be honest. Sometimes, like I think that, that yeah, I mean, I read Clan of the Cave Bear at 12. Probably not the best thing for a 12-year-old to read, uh, considering some of the violence within it or the sexual violence within it. Uh, I read Clan of the Cave Bear at 12, and there are things that I didn't buy. There are things that I didn't, think were right. Um, I think that comes from, the perspective that I had comparatively. But I think that Jean M. All really had a really good perspective as well. And having read Clan of the Cave Bear at 12, I think it really influenced the way that I interact with the world and view the world in a lot of senses. And I say that because the statement of I think that it's imprinted in our bones, like epigenetics, which we do know is imprinted in our bones, but the understanding of the world around us being imprinted in our bones. There was belief that for a long time that Neanderthals had such big skulls because Neanderthal skulls are larger than ours, because it was the imprint of memory. So that a Neanderthal child was born with memory. So a horse is born basically with memory. A snake is born basically with memory. The imprint in them and how to interact with the world in the best possible way for themselves and for the world around it. And uh, there was a belief that the Neanderthals maintained that through generations, and that that memory would extend. So, like if I had a mother who was a healer, then, and this is in Kalana the Cave Bear, where Ula has Isa as a mother, and Isa uh, carries the imprinted memories of Isa's grandmother. Like, so it's basically like if you were born to a healer family, you're going to be a healer kind of thing, because all of those memories get imprinted in the brain, is what Gene All had it as. And to me, that's really like, I do think that our ability to understand the world around us is absolutely imprinted in our brain. Our ability to interact and how we interact with the world is absolutely imprinted in our bodies. So, to me, epigenetics isn't just, the trauma that happens to your grandparents happens, or, is printed into your bone, printed into your DNA. It's also the understanding that your grandparents had, and their understanding with the world around them is imprinted into your DNA. And I think that that's important when we're talking about reconnection. So, we've talked before about, finding different ways to reconnect, and, listening to many different voices that are possibilities. So, like, if you know that you have ancestry from uh, the middle of France, near Normandy, let's go with near Normandy, right? You know that you have this ancestry from the middle of France, then you might, um, in trying to take it back to um, animism, to pre Christian colonization, you might go to the indigenous people in a couple of different groups, right? If you're trying to dig it back, right? So you might go to the Celtic indigenous people to see what indigenous thought processes might be working there. Or you might go to the Nordic indigenous people, the Sami, uh, to see if you can get that thought process through there. We were talking about this with tattooing. If you're looking at a tattooing thought process that you are wanting to, let me make sure I've got this in the same space pretty much, that you're wanting to incorporate into your body. I think we were talking about incorporating the reindeer from the uh, Ukok um, uh, Princess Ukok. And we were talking about incorporating that. Let me trying to do it from the picture at the same time. You might go to the Irish and say, hey, how did you incorporate this? Or what would this mean to you historically? And you might go to the Sami and go, okay, so how would you view this? Like, what might this mean? And then as you're working through how to figure it out, you might go with what feels the right to you, what works right to your thought process, what feels more like you. That to me is also that imprinted into your bones. There's this epigenetic understanding that this is how you would have interacted with this specific element. And I think that that's really important when we're um, trying to reconnect in space where things are lost. So Central France doesn't really have, to my knowledge, and it could be wrong, doesn't really have indigenous peoples anymore. So if you're trying to reconnect Central France without indigenous peoples, you would go to nearby indigenous peoples for an understanding of what indigeneity feels like, or the understanding of the thoughts processes that you might get with indigeneity. Not to take what they have. We were talking about this with appropriation versus appreciation the other day, and with the tattooing conversations that we've been having. Not to take what they might have, but to garner an understanding of what your shared ancestors might have understood. And then with that, you want to, if you do not know which part is your shared ancestry, you would take, sorry, Brandon, I didn't mean to get you. You would take that and you would go, okay, well, this one feels like it sings to me. It feels right to me, as opposed to this one doesn't feel as right to me. And again, you probably wouldn't do the exact. If you are going, okay, so my ancestors are either Celtic or Scandinavian. And it should be understood that, well, the Sami are Scandinavian peoples, and their indigeneity is Scandinavian. They are not Nordic, like Viking Scandinavian thought process. Like that's not a Viking thought process. That's a different group of people who the Vikings actually talk about, who are actually in the sagas, uh, and who the Vikings were already causing damage to. Like the Vikings were not very good to the Sami people, and they didn't talk about them very beautifully. So, like if you're going for a Viking thought process, you would definitely not go to Sami people for that, right? If you are going for pre that, and if you're going for, say, Ukkoak, who is in Scythia or Siberia, then you might go to both of those places because the descendants could be in both of those places, right? Because descendants could be either Celtic or Sami, Finno-Ugric language group. I would think that Ukoko, she's got such a weird name. UKOK would probably be Finno-Ugric because she is Siberian, like 4,000 years ago, which would be after the point of time that the Finno-Ugric group had come from the steppes, but there's still a lot of interaction with the Finno-Ugric groups on the steppes with the Finno-Ugric groups in Scandinavian areas. Again, I am also over on YouTube. If I can't see the comments that you want to make, you can absolutely go to YouTube and I will absolutely, not sure if that came out right. I don't know if I like the way that played with the crossover. I think those are too tight up, maybe. No, I know I can do that. Okay. And the same thing it should be said when it comes to learning how to ground and center, learning how to connect with the world around you. It's absolutely appropriate if you are in a diaspora to ask how the trees in an area might best speak. And a diaspora means in a space that your ancestors are not from. So like in America, we have a lot of diaspora, really Turtle Island indigenous people. In the US and Canada and Mexico are really the only ones who are not in a diaspora. Everyone else is really in a diaspora. So it is absolutely okay in a diaspora to it just looks like an octopus coming out or something. It's absolutely okay in a diaspora to go to the local groups of people and say I'm trying to connect to my own indigeneity. I'm not trying to connect to your indigeneity, but I would like to know how to speak to this land better, so that when I am connecting to my own ancestry, that I incorporate the land and the spirits of the land and do honor by them, right? Understanding that they're not my ancestral spirits or somebody else's, but I am connecting to the land in the way, in the place that I am in. Most, of course, not all of anything, but most people that I know are totally down for that. They're like, come and ask us how do the trees speak? How does this work? I don't want that, because of the fact that that tending and governance, returning land back, that is often spoken about, is really about being able to do better honor to the earth, because there's not a whole lot of honor done to the earth, right? And so most groups that want that return of tending and governance want that return of tending and governance, not, and again, I don't want to speak for other people, uh, but that returning of tendering and governance is that better understanding of the connection with the land. That's what is being asked for, is that better understanding of the land, because if we can better understand the land, that better understanding of the land will heal the land and will heal us. We're in the middle of destroying and in trying to stop that destruction. It can be very important. Well, it only happens through hearing the land. It only happens through listening to her for once, and so many groups have lost that listen. So if you're in a diaspora, going to groups and saying, listen, or not, I mean, I wouldn't start with listen, but saying, I'm coming because I'm trying to connect with my own ancestry, uh, and doing it in this non-self ancestral space. I want to make sure that I'm speaking to the land right, and that I'm doing honor to the ancestors that are here while I'm connecting to my own ancestry. And most, and I don't want to present anybody as monolithic, of course, but most groups are very happy to give you an idea of how to be more respectful to their home, how to treat their home better. Because really that's what it's all about, right? Is treating home better, not being an asshole in home. So I think that it's always important to understand how to treat the land better, how to treat the world around you better. And I think that we can sense that on some levels through that epigenetic, and just through that, sensing. Like, I mean, I think whether you're from a space or not, you can sense that throwing your garbage around is not going to be healthy for that space. And I think that from a space or not, you can sense that, it's not really healthy to take everything. You got to leave something for the animals and leave something for the other beings coming through, right? I think that that's a really important. Oh, did I not want that? I don't think I did. Maybe I wanted it more. Thank you. Now we'll fix it. And I think that really as long as we're listening, as long as we've opened ourselves up to an understanding instead of thinking that we know everything, right? I did internal work research and then went to place of origin and found relatives. Walked down to the river through fields of chamomile where ancestors bathed and washed. River gifted a heart rock. That's beautiful, I'm uh I actually have not been to the space that my ancestors have walked, I think, even here in Turtle Island. Um, it is something I want to do. I haven't been able to travel near as much as I wanted to throughout my life. Um, but it is absolutely something that I'm planning on doing. I actually was supposed to be in Sweden in 2020, in July of 2020. I was going to Sweden to Birka to write on my novel, my book, my big book that I'm doing, the one about BJ 581, the Birka Shield Maiden. Uh, and so I haven't gotten that chance yet. Life has thrown a few different things. That's my thing, is I want to be able to taste and touch the dirt everywhere, and I want to sit in the spaces that I know that my ancestors came from, and and taste them, feel them. I want to taste the dirt. I want to hear the breeze and feel it. To me, that's where connection truly comes, is through the land. And I think that really every ancestral group I have finds connection through the land. I okay, so like every child in the 80s and 90s, pretty much, I watched Gone with the Wind. Uh, and in my watching of Gone with the Wind, I have this really Scarlett seemed like she was very dramatic, but I have this memory of her talking about, like, we're Irish and the land is important to us, right? And I think that was a really early understanding that it wasn't just the indigenous groups that I had grown up with that land was important to. That land was very important to many indigenous groups, especially many indigenous groups that suffered through colonization, and not the ownership of land, but uh, the connection to the land, right? To be in the land that their ancestors have been in, right? That feeling of connection to space that many indigenous groups get. I didn't think very much about Scarlet. It was very positive. I just really connected to that understanding of, oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes total sense, because I totally see where this group and this group is very connected to the land and why that's important. My little centipedes. I can't really represent their little segmented scale bodies and their legs at the same time. It just doesn't want to work for me. And Tightly coiled little centipede who does not want to centipede for me. He says, no, I will not go for your centipede. I do not want to. Tightly coiled little centipede. He says, I do not work for thee. I will not coil, I will not go. If you're weird and you know it, sing a song. You're weird and you know it, sing a song. You're weird and you know it, and life will surely show it. If you're weird and you know it, sing along. He almost looks like a snail and he wasn't supposed to, but he will not when I'm done with him. Let me stop licking me. My dog. He might be too tightly coiled for me. This tightly coiled little centipede. This is why I'm saying all mistakes have to be like incorporated in. And mistakes are lessons as well as a part of creating. Because this little centipede is not going to want to centipede for me as much as I want him to. But I cannot erase him. So he will have to centipede. So it will do very sharp little legs going like this. Try and get my dog to stop licking my feet. That will work. It is not meant to be perfect. It is meant to convey. Okay. I want grass, dirt, trees, centipede, leaves. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this first. You were not looking me? I know. Well, you know. Let me look and see if there's anything going on here. Yeah. It's been quiet lately. I really think it's because I'm no longer a live band. And because I use that live thing and I don't know how to get rid of it. I mean, I can not go live for a while and it'll go away, but I don't really want to do that so much. Let's do, that's black and gray. I think that to get rid of my live whatever access, I have to actually like stop going live for a while. And so I might end up having to do that actually, so that I can get back the, I think that it's using that live streaming studio that's actually causing my, and I haven't used it. Like I used it once and I noticed that I literally had 12 followers or 12 people in the chat. Like I have been having so many for so long. And then I used that and then it was like nobody. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I haven't used it since like the first day I used it. I have to, I was thinking, I was like, I should have somebody report me and get live banned so that I can, because I have to not be live banned to have it. And I'm like, maybe I should get live banned again so that I can. So I might have to go ahead and do one of my alter political lives so that I can get live banned, so that I can have my streaming back. I don't think it's going out on the FYP, is I think what it is. Or maybe it's not staying on the FYP. I don't know. I'll literally have a bunch of people pop in at the beginning sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes since I did that. And like I'll have like up to 100 and then they'll go down. The most I've had since then is like 60 people, I think, which is just, I mean, I feel like I'm complaining about something that everybody else is dealing with, right? It's just that it seems weird because that's not how it has been, right? Like, so it's been different. And so I'm like, well, why is it like that now, right? Like, that doesn't seem right. But I do recognize that there is it's not a lot of people that have very high lives. So I was scrolling through and there's a few people that are like over 1,000. They just sit and talk. I think most of it is because there's a lot of real controversial things going on. So that might be what I have to do. I might have to do something that is the alter political piss people off kind to get my stream back. I'm darkening up the trees a bit so that when I do the dirt, that it's distinct from the trees. With the roots on the trees. broke it. Okay, and then I want to, okay, so we're going to use this to do massive desmudge and pencil mark erase. Might have to darken a couple things up afterwards just because it might take them off or get them to a lighter shade. Oh, this has got stuff on it. Hold on, I'll be right. Actually, maybe I don't need to. I can get some of this stuff off my hands before I make it worse. I have alcohol in here for cleaning things, so just use that. Make sure that the eraser, I think that there's parts of the eraser that have icky stuff in them because it was in a drawer. So I want to make sure that it doesn't have any of this black stuff so that it's not smudging the picture itself as I'm trying to de-smudge the picture. Oh. Yeah, let's use my nails. Okay. De-smudged it a bit. It did lighten it all up a bit. But the de-smudging is really effective when it was all smudged up from the pencil, and the color pencil won't smudge as much as the charcoal or whatever that is, and the pencil smudges. I can't remember. I think it's like a form of charcoal or something like that. But I could be completely wrong. I am completely wrong. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, though. Okay, and my trees and roots. Let's get this put back together a bit. Make sure that it has that dark enough element. This also kind of smooths it a bit, I think, as I go back over it. Gives it that ability to kind of come together a little bit better. Actually made my centipede look better. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get off the live. I will probably be back later today, probably this afternoon, my time. And maybe I'll go with something a little bit more political. Yeah, I'm going to do that because I want to work on this and I'm not finding my ability to focus. And so I want to get it done. So I will be back in probably this afternoon. I'll go ahead and try and set up like a live thing. Probably not. uh, See, what day is it? Is it Tuesday or Wednesday? Oh, I've missed a few calls and they didn't stop my live, which is really weird. Today's Wednesday. So I can come in this evening. Um, what time is it there? Hi, Luna. What time is it there, Sleepy? I never can remember. Oh yeah. So maybe in a couple hours. I'll try and do it in a couple of hours. And that way you can still be up. Yeah, it's like 5 to 11 a.m. right now for me. So this afternoon, like I can come in at like noon, probably 1 o'clock, which would be in like 2 hours. So maybe 9 o'clock for you. Um, I was thinking like 8 p.m. my time, which is like 9 hours from now, but it would definitely be really early morning for you. But I'll try and do early afternoon. So much love, everybody. Thank you all for sleeping in here. Well, yeah, no, no, no. And I'm, it's not so much, it's just the time of everything else going on around me as I'm trying to think of, because I know Jay will be up like 3 or 4 and if not earlier, because he slept last night. So, okay, Goose. It's not a challenge. I'll text you or I'll Facebook message you and let you know. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for coming in and sitting with me and have a great day.